7 weeks of grueling Hearthstone action for all of these players has come down to just these 2 gentlemen you see standing alongside me, 2 representatives of Torpedo continuing their dominance of the UK Hearthstone scene. It is going to be Ball Control versus Jambray. I will start with you, coming as the defending champion, making it all the way back to the grand finals again. Already a massive mark of consistency. Do you feel like you have it in you to go again?
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same situation as before, having to win 2 series to win the final, and I'm pretty sure I can do it again.
Yeah, he's done it before. It was an epic reset series against Cypher last time around, and he feels like he's in good shape to do it again. But we have our newcomer on my other side, Mr. Jambray, coming as a newcomer. Honestly, just as impressive a story, coming all the way straight through to grand finals. How do you feel going up against your teammate, Ball Control? Is there any brand loyalty going on right now, or are you completely in this for yourself?
Well, he's the player I least wanted to play going into this, and I felt that he's the best opponent. But lineup-wise, I think I'm favoured, and I've got 2 chances to win, so I think I should be able to take home the trophy.
All right, seems good. Quiet confidence from both of these players, so please go ahead and shake hands. Show each other the proper respect. I'm sure there's no problem. Take your seat, and we are just about ready to get into this grand finals. Everything culminates now, and standing by to take you through it are the voices that have taken you through the whole journey. Take it away, Munchables and Co.
Thank you very much, Sottle, and we are ready to get into this grand final. My name is Munchables, and joining me at the couch is going to be Dan Gaskin and X-Scoundrel. As per the group stages, we're ready to get into potentially the final match of this entire season. What a season it has been, and I feel like Ball Control, he's here again. He's made it 2nd season running now, and obviously at a disadvantage, but I feel like in his rightful place in the finals. Jambray, however, he's come in to prove himself this season, and so far has absolutely done that.
He definitely has, but I think what a few people have touched on throughout this tournament is, if we're looking at deck lists in particular, we think Ball Controls is very good against Jambray. Jambray is probably the weakest against any of the other players around.
Yeah, in a way, what Ball Control has done, right, he's done the classic conquest tactic that Sottle highlighted quite nicely in the quote that he couldn't remember who said it, but it was basically bring good decks and play them well. That was kind of like the classic phrase
mantra,
generally tends to, yeah, the mantra you take into a conquest tournament. I actually, in a small part, agree and small part disagree with the statement that Jambray essentially has brought decks that are weak to everyone else. He's got very good aggro decks that generally do well into matchups that have little to no answers, especially with Control Warrior off board, no Brawl being involved. He actually has got, especially in that Secret Paladin lineup, something that's very good. His Beast Druid is supposed to do very well into the Malagos variant of Druid, and obviously with probably a Shaman off the board, although interestingly enough, when we get to the ban phase, I've heard there's some shenanigans going on, so it could be a little bit interesting.
Shenanigans?
We will have to wait and see. Let's just take one last look at the bracket, see how these players got here once again, refresh our memories of what's been going on over the course of the day in case you guys have missed any of the games leading up to this. It's been one heck of a day of games. We've had only 1 series that wasn't a 3-2, so a lot of series that were completely down to the wire, but you can see Ball Control right from the get-go had to go down to that lower bracket. He's played as many games today as he could squeeze in, clearly seeing this as a practice opportunity as well as a tournament. But Jambray, he's had a clean run through toward the finals. So now we're here. Obviously, the bracket will reset once again. We have a double final if Ball Control can win the first one, because Jambray has that winner's advantage coming from the upper bracket. So we'll see how that's going to pan out, whether we're going to see a double final again. And like Sottle said on stage, this is what he did last season. And in fact, last season, he was down 3-1 to Cypher and managed to bring that series back and then win a second best of 7 as well. This time, it's only best of 5, so arguably an easier feat for him.
Yeah, arguably it is easier best of 5 than best of 7, but with how Jambray has been playing,
Goes the other way as well, by the way.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's gonna be
arguably easier to lose, too, straight
Yeah,
up.
I mean, if he goes 3-1 down this time, it's over.
he is out. And to be honest, Jambray has just looked phenomenal. He hasn't looked nervous. He's been making great plays. I haven't questioned really any of his play decisions. It just seems like he's playing flawlessly, and the cards have been in his favor as well.
Look at this. Warlock has been banned away by Jambray, so he's happy to go against this Shaman. And this is something we've seen. It's kind of a theme of today, that people are more confident to go against this Shaman than you would have expected necessarily. I mean, Mysterious was willing to jump into that. Now Jambray following suit.
This is the shenanigans that I was talking about. Ball Control approached me, he said, he's banned Warlock. And I was like, okay, Mysterious, I remember him banning Warlock. I thought he was talking about Mysterious previously, but nope. This is Jambray saying, I'm happy to face into your Shaman. I don't want to face your Warlock.
Well, I suppose there's arguments that say, you know, Jambray's Paladin deck especially, not fantastic into a Zoolock. So
there's arguments that actually most of his deck lineups, if given the right situations, could do well into Shaman as well.
It's also, but it's one of those things. I mean, Shaman has a lot of board clear, so it's going to be tough as a Paladin. But I suppose with all those Divine Shields, you're more than happy for those Maelstrom Portals to come into play. But it's an interesting ban for sure, and only time will tell whether it's the right one.
I've got to say, I'm quite jealous of the players' chairs. I know that's not quite the same topic we were talking about, but I feel like
not quite the same topic.
The back of the chairs is just superior to the back of my chair. I'm sad now, but they just look really comfy.
They don't have this rug.
That is true. They
Unfortunately,
don't
I get lost in either chair or sofa, being so small that I am.
Okay, I'm being prodded by production. They want me to get on with this series, so I'm going to ask you guys for your predictions heading into potentially the final series of the day. This is the grand final. Kiernan, we'll start with you. What do you reckon?
I think Jambray's lineup's favoured 3-1 Jambray.
Wow, that was quick. That's the quickest thing he said all season. I think that Lejam is going to take this. I've backed him several times throughout the season, and he's my boy today. He's going to take it home.
Well, Leroy told me a rule of the analyst desk earlier today that the third person always seems to go against the other two, so I'm just going to follow that rule. And I am going to go with the reigning champion of Ball Control. I think he can push this to another series here, and I think we're going to see maximum games here today. I do think it'll be 3-2 though, so 2 for Jambray and myself for Ball Control. We'll have to see how this one is going to pan out. Definitely going to be an intense series and a lot on the line for these guys right now, because the first place prize, £2,500, half of the total prize pool. So it's a huge leap in terms of that money. And obviously they are teammates, but they are definitely playing to win.
Oh, for sure. I mean, obviously Torpedo will be watching and they'll be happy that both players are in the final. But now this just comes down to a personal rivalry between these two guys. The fact your teammates just goes out the window now, as we see both players are queuing into this game. So we will have the Hunter from Ball Control and the Zoolock from Jambray.
And here comes these tech-in cards from Ball Control that I think we should keep an eye on. He's got a very nice opening hand with the Secret Keeper that you might not want to play that explosive trap on turn 2, depending on really how much momentum you're trying to gain. Got the quick shot though, so you could always go turn 3, Cloaked Huntress into an explosive trap. But the thing we need to highlight here is Ball Control has a lineup in the Hunter variant that does well into Zoolock. He's got Snake Trap, he's got Explosive Trap, he's got Unleash the Hounds, which not everybody is running, so...
Ball Control also has that Secret Keeper to start, followed by Coin Cloak Huntress into a trap. He might draw another trap as well. So this is one of the good starts with Hunter. Typically, when you do play this Secret Hunter deck, it is sometimes hard to kind of get on a steam train. If you can't get those early drops, you can fall behind against something like a Zoo, but he has got the right answers here.
Got a lot.
You go.
No, I'm pointing at you, my friend. You take the
Wolf Alpha will be the perfect answer. So I was going to say to that one, but there is the second secret that you talked about, Gaskin, which means the Coin Cloak Huntress looks pretty darn juicy in this situation.
And now we've got the situation which everyone faces of you've got to decide what traps these are. I think naturally you probably run your 2-1 into the Cloaked Huntress to test out for Freezing Trap first, because you're most worried about Explosive Trap with the board that you do have, which is what Jambray is going to go for. And now knowing that it's not a Freezing Trap, I think you naturally just trade into the Cloaked Huntress because you don't want to be throwing too much into Explosive Trap.
Other side of that coin though means with that Explosive Trap still in play, the next board that you play is going to suffer for that. And when you're Zoo, you can't really afford to slow your momentum to stop this push. And now playing the Councilman, that gets tagged down to just 1 HP. That will die to the Explosive Trap. So now his next turn has to begin with him just suiciding the Councilman.
Yeah, well, the actual main net goal here, I think, for Jambray is that if this is snipe, most of my stuff dies to snipe. At least Councilman gives me the opportunity to trade upwards if I need to.
That Misha, though, is going to ruin that plan. Shuts it right down, and Ball Control actually, not the greatest hand remaining right now, but with a quick shot being one of the only last ones, he's going to be able to refill that.
Yeah, providing he picks something up from tracking that he can get rid of. I mean, if he was to find something like a Ragnaros, then that would change that situation completely. But we're also forgetting that cat trick is also a secret that Jambre would have to be taking into consideration here. It might not, it's not a definite that it is an explosive trap, so I was wrong to assume that that line of play.
You know, he can't know for sure because he hasn't cast a spell and he hasn't attacked face. The one thing he does have to remember is that eventually you can't play around explosive trap forever. You have to at some point proc it, and actually having a death rattle on board is a nice response to that in ways as well.
Handmaster comes through for ball control. It's an option, but it's definitely not a fun option, not one you really want to entertain. This is a tricky decision, and once again we see these kill commands in the trackings. It never seems like the optimal one to go for in a tracking, but often ends up just being thrown away essentially.
So if he didn't know that it was explosive trap before, he
certainly
must
does
know
now,
that
yeah.
it is now.
So why you pick that in that particular scenario is pretty obvious. You just get an immediate. If Jambre chooses to play in, you get an immediate bow charge, giving you another nice 3-2, and obviously then you can start to use that to either control board or go face. Now, you gotta think about what Jambre is going through his head. He's probably saying, do I need to start fighting for board? Do I even need to bother fighting for board control at this point in time, or do I just cut my losses, proc the explosive trap, and just slam board over and over again now?
I think you have to proc it. The longer you wait, you're just giving the hunter more time to refuel, to get more cards. They can constantly use that hero power, keep bursting you down. You just got to suck it up, say that you're going to get rid of those minions, and start refilling as Warlocks so often do. And there are the choices there for Jambre. Not the best ones, but I mean, a minion is a minion for Zoo at the end of the day. You just want to get as much as you can on the board. Especially now you've seen one explosive trap, typically you don't need. There's very rarely two as well, so you can be kind of confident putting a lot on the board.
So another theory as to why you would proc explosive trap there is that most of your minions in deck will die to explosive trap. So it doesn't matter how quickly you build the board, you're going to have to go face at some point. So you might as well take it out early and then build things following that. And actually, what you're seeing here now from Jambre is board control is left with very few answers in hand. You know, this could just end up being a naked Houndmaster turn to buy him time.
I think you can deal with a lot of this board though. With an Eagle Horn Bow, you could even quick shot one of the minions as well. You can reduce the damage on board to just 3, and if you can play this so that you're weaving hero powers in every single turn against a Zoolock that naturally wants to tap anyway, you will get to a situation where the Zoolock actually pushes their own health bar incredibly.
You have lost a kill command though, so that's a big chunk of damage that can go face. We saw this from Leroy. He lost 2 huge face damage sources from tracking, and that a net result ended in him not having the damage to push him over the line with the Hunter. So you've lost one already from board control right now. If you use a quick shot here, you're taking down, obviously getting board control back, but board control against a Warlock who's already in control without putting stuff down on board yourself is just going to result in the Warlock flooding more. So it never feels good, right, to do that. But I think you're right. I think you have to start doing some sort of control mechanism here, and I think the naked Houndmaster for me was the...
Yeah, he decides to go with your play in the end. I definitely agree that having the extra minion on board, it's basically, instead of you being the aggressor in control... Oh dear.
I mean, I know it doesn't really make a difference because he has the mana anyway.
Yeah.
It's still one of those things. It's still nice to see.
I think, I mean, just getting the Soulfire purely to deal with the minion alone, even without the Clockwork Silverware Golem, is still absolutely massive. But the high main on 6, definitely a little bit of a lifeline there for ball control. Still feels very slow, but at least it's an answer. And taking out this means there's only 5 damage on board as well.
Now, one of the big tools we saw against high main, we saw it with the Hele Leroy matchup, is having loads of taunts on board. Just slamming taunts, and being able to stop the high main getting through to his high value target, which is the face. So by having Defender of Argus, by having Voidwalker, all these kind of things in hand, that's fantastic. The problem is here, for Jambre, he's already discarded a Defender of Argus. So you're now relying on things like Voidwalker and further Defender of Arguses to be able to soak up this...
Defender of Argai.
Defender of Argai, to be able to soak up this 6 damage. Voidwalker will do you justice in some respects, but obviously there are things that can play around that.
Yeah, such as the quick shot in hand right now could be something that comes into play. But a fair bit of damage going to be jammed into ball control's face, and he is actually starting to get a little bit low. Needs to start to consider his options in terms of how defensive does he need to play. I think as a hunter, a lot of the time you really want to be very, very aggressive, but in a situation like this, you absolutely have to be defensive. And, well, ball control completely disagrees with me, as I pretty sure he just queued that to go straight into face.
So obviously Jambray won't know, well, unless he knows Ball Control's list, he won't know that he doesn't run 2 freezing traps, and this way Ball Control was essentially putting himself on a 2-turn timer and maybe a 1-turn timer if this is explosive trap. And so if it is explosive trap, Jambray goes face, he doesn't have lethal this turn, he has lost the game outright. So there is a theoretical 1-turn timer for Jambray now.
Ball Control obviously has the out of Ragnaros perhaps hitting face as well. That's something that he could be considering. But I think one of the things with this mid-range Shaman deck list and the fact that it has Ragnaros, it meant that he wasn't able to get any real value out of that quick shot. If he hadn't been running Ragnaros, he was running a lower end minion, or he was drawn a lower end minion, and it becomes a very different situation where you're able to refuel your hand and perhaps get more damage.
Furthermore, he can't tap, because unless he can deal with this Savannah High main, he dies to Savannah High main going face, and then also using the hero power. So essentially what Ball Control has done here is limited many outs and many options for Jambray.
Power overwhelming off this could be huge, but doesn't get it. Actually goes with an injured Valdir there. Just wants the extra tiny bit of damage. The Markazar's imp, he's already got 1 anyway. Just any little bit of extra damage will make the difference in this series because of how low the health bars are. Cat Trick is not an answer. Does he slam Ragnaros here? I think he has to and just kind of pray.
Yeah, you lose next turn if you don't slam. Even if you trade, I think you might end up losing next turn.
Even if you trade with the 3-2, you're still looking at 8 damage. So you have to just go face here and play Ragnaros and pray to the gods. We've seen it so many times before.
Yeah.
Will it actually happen on such a big stage?
Certainly the correct place for it to happen. And Ball Control waiting on this one as well. He doesn't want it to happen. Here we go. I thought that was going face for a split second though. It does hit the 1-1, which means that Jambray takes the first game in this series. The Secret Hunter proving too slow to keep up with the pace of the Zulok.
Yeah, actually that was a really, really well fought series between the two of them. Ball Control made some very sensible decisions towards the end, knowing that there's no point fighting for Ball Control now. I've already lost it. I can't compete against Zoo in that respect. Put him on a theoretical 1-turn timer. And yeah, it looked very, very good from that offset. There was one play that was I noticed you winced at, which was the discarding of the Defender of August. But obviously, Jambray made that in sort of the hope that it was a 50-50 of getting rid of the imp.
Of course, and Jambray just starting really well again. I mean, he's gone 1-0 up in every single series. And I know I spoke about it with Soto about your kind of deck choices and whether it's just random or not. But regardless of that, the way he's playing has been second to none to anyone in this tournament, to be honest. He hasn't made any decisions that I've been really adverse to. Yes, there's some that I've been saying I might have done differently, but he's been playing pretty much flawlessly, to be honest.
He played the long con, boys. He was all about performing poorly during the season, saving all of the good performances for the LAN finals.
And it's certainly going well for him. And now going into this next game versus Ball, well, obviously versus Ball Control, but it's what Ball Control
It's Hello Leroy, he comes out, he slams Ball Control to the floor, Hello Leroy takes the stage.
Yeah. What Jambray doesn't know is Hello Leroy is Ball Control's tag team partner. No, but I mean, let's just put into context right now. Jambray, in his debut season of the ESL UK Premiership, is 2 games away from taking the trophy, taking the grand prize, and finishing out the season with a bang. He's done fantastically so far, and now he's going on to his Secret Paladin deck. Not the greatest starting hand ever. Having a 6-drop and 4-drop, really not ideal. Does have his Argent Squire though, as well as his Rallying Blade. So, you know, it's possible if he finds his Silent Knight, there are definitely ways for this hand to become a lot better than it looks.
Yeah, and he'll be hoping that he gets the sort of the coin Rallying Blade potentially to deal with threats following, but you know, as it stands for Ball Control, it's either a Totem or Maelstrom Portal to deal with the Divine Shield.
So he will Totem up. I mean, one consideration, like you say, was Maelstrom Portal. If you are worried about the Divine Shield, obviously we know that Rallying Blade is a thing and it is a possibility. Now with the Keeper of Oldham coming into play, it makes it a very difficult turn for Jambray. Yeah, I prefer this. I prefer waiting because Keeper of Oldham on turn 4 is absolutely disgusting.
But also, even just aside from the Keeper of Oldham, before that, you coin for the Rallying Blade, you have no turn on turn 3.
That's the main point, I think, is that you just don't have a turn on turn 3 if you do it that way. And now we have to wait and see if he ends up coining out a Keeper of Oldham or Barnes, or he ends up using the Rallying Blade. Rallying Blade will deal nicely with the rest of the board.
I think I like Keeper of Oldham here just because you basically say to ball control, you need to start using AoE already.
Sure,
you need to already burn these Maelstrom portals, these lightning storms. You have to have an answer, and we're only 4 turns in.
I think it's very key that ball control does have both Maelstrom portals in his hand as well. They can become very useful in this matchup, and especially if you've got spell damage on board, which I wouldn't be surprised if Jambray gets rid of as a first priority here.
So I actually like using it on the dude instead of the... for that exact reason, the dude instead of the Divine Shield, specifically because Maelstrom Portal, it plays a little bit around it, plus you have the follow-up later of a Rallying Blade if that Divine Shield stays in play, so it makes it harder to deal with this as a whole.
So now what would you guys diagnose as the line of play here for ball control? Obviously there's 2 Maelstrom Portals. You probably don't want to use them both though, and I mean, do you roll for a Spell Power Totem? Does that really achieve you enough in this situation?
I don't think a Spell Power Totem achieves you that much right now. I would be tempted to, well, either try and... the only way I'd search for a Spell Power Totem is if I potentially then want to use Lightning Bolt to deal with the 3-4.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say. And another thing about putting a Spell Power Totem, the Erevath Totem, on the board is it begs Jambay to remove it as well.
Yeah.
You don't let the Spell Power Totem survive ever. You always get rid of it because you know it can punish you. So I guess there is some merit in rolling for a totem first.
Do you, in any world, do you consider doing the Maelstrom Portal into the Flame Tongue Totem so that you can take out the 3-3?
I think it's certainly worth consideration. I think what ball control's got to decide here is what is the most valuable play and what is going to punish him most. If he was to use some removal now, is Jambay going to be able to flood the board and that removal is going to have been wasted? But I think with this play, he's putting minions on the board that can contest what Jambay has, and he's also got a follow-up next turn of possibly rolling a Spell Power Totem and using Maelstrom Portal.
Maelstrom Portal again, yeah. So that's the sort of the theory here, is that if he picks up another Spell Power, if these totems aren't deal with, it gives him a 50-50 to roll Wrath of Air, and then you could just use the follow-up of Maelstrom Portal and maybe clean up. Jambray is going to continue to flood the board here. Now, had Lightning Storm being a consideration, which maybe playing the Maelstrom Portal, leaving things at 3 health was a consideration for, this would be slightly weaker, but there is a Silent Knight now, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're still in a situation as well where even with a Lightning Storm, he has to get the spell power for it to be consistent. And even at that stage, as you rightly say, the Silent Knight will survive, and Barnes has, you know, a 50-50 of surviving as well. So even in the best case scenario where there is spell power and there is a Lightning Storm, Jambray's still in a fantastic spot, and he has more things available in the upcoming turns. Still got that True Silver Champion, has an Abusive Sergeant as well. And do you know what? In this kind of Paladin deck with the Keeper of Ultimans and the Blessing of Kings, just dropping a dude doesn't even feel bad on any turns if you can weave that in.
And this is one of those turns for ball control as well, where I don't think you'd mind rolling a totem first just to see what you get, and then you can kind of decide on your style of play depending on what you roll. If you get Spell Power, you can use the Lightning Bolt or the Maelstrom Portal in whatever way you see fit. He isn't going to get the Spell Power totem though. But actually, Charge Minion really helps here. Oh no, it
doesn't quite do enough because of the stealth. Yeah, I saw it for a second. I was like, oh my god, but no, it's not quite enough to make a big difference on this one. But at least you get 1 damage, right?
It's also another 1/1 that you have to deal with as Jambray, and if you want to deal with it, what you've got on board right now, you lose your Silent Knight in stealth, even though it's just a 1/1. So it's not a bad play at all from ball control. I was leaning maybe towards Hero Power Flame Tongue and then slamming the thing from below, because it's just a huge amount of threat, but it's so weak to things like True Silver, even if you have to take 4 damage to the face, that it probably wouldn't have been worth it. So this cleans up more of the board here for ball control and puts down, albeit 2 1/1s, but they are threats in themselves.
Yeah, at least it's something.
Exactly.
Right? At least he actually has a board that Jambray has to consider. And you can see Jambray seriously considering what to do on this turn, because there's the option of True Silver, right? But do you want to waste True Silver charges on 1/1s? It feels pretty awkward to have to waste that damage. He's going to go for that in the end, though.
I think the big thing at the moment is that Jambray hasn't been able to kind of let loose his Paladin and start hitting face. I mean, ball control is still at 29 health, so he's looking good, but he's used 2 of his AoE clears. If he doesn't draw something like a Lightning Storm, it could quickly get out of control.
You really don't mind 1/1s being on board right now, because, you know, if they were...
Maelstrom Portals
exactly,
are done, right?
all Maelstrom Portals are gone, so you just have these 1/1s that become easy trade tools for you in the future.
Not only that, but also this board plays perfectly into his next turn of Mysterious Challenger, gets the competitive spirit into play, no Maelstrom Portals. We already basically know that Ball Control doesn't have a Lightning Storm because he surely would have played it in one of these previous turns. And basically saying to Ball Control, if you don't top deck your Lightning Storm, you're in a whole lot of trouble.
So what has happened here is, like you said, he's playing for turn 6 the competitive spirit from the Challenger. Obviously also equipping the True Silver means that thing from below is awkward because it dies just to a 1-1 and True Silver charge. Azure Drake, which would have been the natural play here for Ball Control, dies to a True Silver. And you're seeing Ball Control's refraining from playing these big threats mainly because he doesn't want them to just die, for free.
So he does have the option here, or he did have the option to play Flamethrower Totem and then play for free, but instead he is going to actually Lightning Bolt a 3-1, which doesn't feel great, but I think Ball Control just feels he needs to get rid of as much board as possible and not allow a Jambray to spiral out of control here.
Desperate times, desperate measures, right? And Mysterious Challenger will be dropped on turn 6. That will be 3 secrets, and I've got to say, that's one of the major things in this matchup is he hasn't drawn any of his secrets. He gets the full combo from his Mysterious Challenger, gets that full value from that card, and now a very uncomfortable turn for Ball Control as he has to try and play around those 3 secrets. He knows exactly what they are. He just has to sequence this correctly.
So let's look at what Ball Control can do here. Now, probably the sort of the slowest and potentially worst play would be, I'm putting that inverted commas just in case anybody, would be playing Azure Drake, because it doesn't really achieve you too much on board. You then are stuck with your 2-3 running into a Noble Sacrifice. I think what would be best is Feral Spirits, and maybe then, oh wow, he's actually going to Hex. Yeah, okay, that was the second thing I was talking about. I was maybe thinking about using the Flame Tongue to trade your Wrath of Erin, but this deals with the threats quite nicely here, and you also get Competitive Spirit onto a Frog.
I mean, what else are you going to be hexing, I guess?
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest targets in Jambray's decks. There is Tyrion. Tyrion is there as well, but I guess you've got to worry about what's immediately in front of you. And Jambray is playing this so quickly, and actually it's a theme of today that he is so comfortable with this deck that he doesn't even need the 70 seconds to think about his turn.
And it's like, you know what? All I play all day, every day is mid-range Shaman on ladder. That's all I get queued against. So this matchup is probably second nature to Jambray. He's seen every single scenario you can imagine 1,000 times before on ladder.
So what Jambray is thinking about here is he's saying, do I take the free trade with the Divine Shield into the 4-3, or do I keep my board in a healthier state by taking the trade first with this into the Feral Spirit and then using the Frog to clear up and going face, knowing that I've got Noble Sacrifice? The reason he's making this, you'd think it seemed obvious, but the reason he's making this is that he knows Ball Control runs a Argent Horse Rider in his deck. So could soak up a charge for him.
And now we're actually getting to a point in the game where obviously Jambray was playing around the lack of Lightning Storm earlier on, and he was flooding the board, and that was all fine and dandy at the time. But now we're getting to a situation where Jambray's running out of things to restock his board with. He's only got a 1-2 and a 3-2, and in his hand he has a lot of burst damage, but he doesn't necessarily have consistent threats. He's starting to get to a point where actually that 26 health is looking like a very difficult target to reach.
Yeah, he's basically getting to the point of the game where you change from I'm trading to I'm going face, and you just hope that you continuously draw constant damage. And as we haven't seen the kind of Argent Commanders and Leroy Jenkins and stuff, there is them, like they're going to provide that damage. Ball Control will know that is a possibility.
The problem is here that naturally you would want to trade into the 4-4, right? And then obviously everything else going face, but at this point you think you're ahead, but it only takes is one Lightning Storm and suddenly you are in the rough end of sort of the Shaman, and one Lightning Storm could essentially just swing this way back into Ball Control's favor. So this is a really risky board state for Jambray. This is a board state that says I'm super hopeful that Lightning Storm is not a card.
Well, so far that line of play is being rewarded. The Thunderblood Valiant will come down, which is always an immediate threat. This Stoneclaw Totem,
This one's huge.
super huge for this game, just because it means that Jambray has to find an answer. He has to trade something into that totem before he can actually push on to the 3-6 that he needs to take down.
And it's whether Jambray now is going to be considering trading into the Totem Golem as well, just so he's leaving that Thunder Bluff on the board, and then if he does attack with it, it just goes into Noble Sacrifice. But either way, you've got to be starting to think about how you're going to win this game for Jambray now. Do you just continuously go face? You trade into this Taunt minion and now push as much damage. You've got Leroy Jenkins in hand. You've got 2 charges on your True Silver plus a Rallying Blade as well. I mean, you've got lethal there, but you know that taunts exist in Ball Control's deck. But we have seen one thing from below already.
And we've seen a Feral Spirits as well.
Yes, we have.
So, you know, the AoE has been somewhat cleared, the taunts have been somewhat cleared. I think one of the major factors for Jambray still, one of his win conditions that's still remaining, is the fact that we haven't seen any Blessing of Kings. That, with the Hex down already, could be a huge factor in this game.
So Noble Sacrifice still exists, by the way, which means that...
Oh, there it is.
Goodness gracious, that's probably coming down.
We've been waiting for it all game. It had to happen eventually, and Jambray, unfortunately, was unable to kill things quick enough for it to just not be a factor.
But he's still got a lot of damage to go to face. If there's no taunts in the way, Jambray can just push damage to face and hope that Ball Control can't kill him as quick as he can kill him.
Yeah, this is the thing. He can still race at this point. It's going to be turn 10 as well, so we'll be able to go for Leroy Blessing of Kings if he does draw that. Just get an Argent Commander, so still burst damage though. Can still keep pushing this forward and can play a Rallying Blade to buff up the burst coming out from Argent Commander here. The race is on, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be Jambray leading the charge as he takes another 5 to face. 6 remaining, Leroy in hand. Ball Control needs lethal or a taunt. He finds Alakir.
Is Alakir going to be enough here? Is Alakir? I think it should be. You should be able to clear up everything with Alakir nicely, but you...
Yeah, I mean, you have the Flame Tongue Totem as well. You can't play them both, sorry.
If you leave Alakir at any health below 4, if it's on 3, then Jambray can immediately deal with that with his weapon, and then Leroy just automatically wins the game. So he needs to trade effectively here using his other minions and not be too greedy.
So a top deck of Argent Horse Rider again would be the win for Jambray, because he's got a 3 damage weapon.
I mean, in theory, all he needs is 1 damage. That helps.
That helps.
Keep
That certainly helps.
Uses the Rallying Blade, and Leroy Jenkins will finish it off. And Jambray goes 2-0 up, and he is 1 game away, Munchables, from being our grand final win.
Yeah, this has been an unbelievable performance from Jambray today. So far, he has lost a mere 2 games across the entire day. He's already had 1 3-0 victory. And do you know what? He's about 10 meters away from the finish line of getting a 3-0 in the final against Ball Control. Our reigning champion, Jambray, has absolutely stepped up here.
But technically, Ball Control has been in this position before. He was 3-1 down, so he was 2 games down. We know that he can do it. We know that he's capable of doing it. He still has Shaman left. Shaman typically can get you a win. He's going to be very confident getting that. And with Druid left for Jambray as well, Druid can struggle. We have seen it struggle in several tournaments.
But this is Beast Druid.
Yeah.
And this is a Beast Druid that generally favors quite well into Malygos Druid. So there's always that matchup in Conquest here that you will face certainly at some point throughout this. And if you can get rolling, it does okay into Hunter. It does okay into even into Shaman. If you can get things rolling off the board, this is definitely looking good.
Other side of that coin though is Beast Druid. The reason it's not a deck that's consistently at the top of the meta is because it just simply isn't consistent enough. There are so many games when you're playing Beast Druid that you just draw a ton of bricks in your hand. You can't play, for example, your Menagerie Wardens. Like, they just fill up your hand and you never get to play them if you fall behind early on. So it's definitely not beyond the realm of possibility that he just has 3 terrible draws across 3 games and we go to a second final. That's definitely still possible. Ball Control deciding that against this Beast Druid, he just wants to get his Melee Druid out of the way.
I think that's a sensible option. This is Conquest. Like, you need to win with this at some point. If you win with your worst matchup first, then suddenly the pressure is lifted. You can say, going into the next 2, that you know that you have a better chance in those particular scenarios to do well.
Important for Ball Control, he gets a decent amount of early removal, and actually he's going to summon 2 1/1 saplings here instead of saving it for removal. He's just saying, look, I'm going to compete with your board nice and early on. But Enchanted Raven off the top obviously gets defeated by those 2 1/1s, but Jambray needs to be putting something on the board soon, because with Beast Druid, you just have to constantly put pressure on your opponent. If you allow your opponent to get Ball Control when you are Beast Druid, it's really hard to get back into the matchup.
I do like that he goes for the Hero Power there, though, because it means next turn he can Hero Power and Enchanted Raven finish off the other 1/1. He knows for a fact Ball Control does not want players of the living roots as one wants. So at that point, oh, he's going to do it. Okay, well, I'm going to eat my words on that one. I guess Ball Control basically just saying there, look, I am going to contest this board no matter what.
So you're right, now he's going to do the 3-2 as well, maybe, so that he's going to force either another hero power or some sort of spell to come out from Ball Control. I think that's sensible.
He's basically saying, oh, okay, you want to race me with minions? I mean, I'll just put whatever I can on the board. Yes, okay, Ball Control can trade into them effectively, but he has to get them off the board at some point, and with Fandral as a follow-up on turn 4, as we've seen so much removal from Ball Control, then he may think that's going to survive.
And a major concern is, yes, we've got this good start from Ball Control where he's been able to contest the board, but look at his follow-up. A Ragnaros and 2 Ancients of War. Yes, he's got the Innovate, but still 2 turns away from being able to do that with an Ancient of War. He can coin and Innovate one next turn, but you still are left with like a 2-turn gap before you can really continue that snowball.
It is, but because he's been able to stall Jambray so much, it means that he is finding himself closer and closer to being able to put those big minions on the board, and Jambray is going to struggle to get through them.
Feral Rage is a very nice top deck for Ball Control.
A very nice one. That's a phenomenal one.
That's a phenomenal one. Even with that, he could then coin out the hero power, which is one of the options that he has. It does mean that he then have to use the Innovate the following turn. You won't be able to get Ancient of War out this turn, but leaving Fandral up for a turn, especially against Beast Druid, can be super scary. So
I don't think you need to coin out the hero power here. I think you just use your sapling.
Sure.
And then you say for your next turn you've got coin Innovate into Ancient of War. And you're like, okay, Beast Druid, you've got nothing on board. What are you going to do?
Or even coin Innovate into Rag next turn, because it'll be turn 5. So that's, putting a lot of pressure in that regard.
Especially since the Druid of the Claw was basically certain to go down, essentially, in that turn. But the Maya Keeper maybe changes the line of play slightly. Nope, absolutely doesn't. Just going to Innovate out the Ancient of War. Just says, you know what? You can't deal with this 5/10 right now. And I mean, massive minions like this is something that typically Beast Druid does struggle to deal with.
It's hard enough dealing with 1, but dealing with a possible 2 is even
Plus a
worse.
Ragnaros.
Oh, this is a really cool choice now for Jambray.
These are the best 3.
Yeah, these are like the best 3 hero powers you can hope for some Finley. Steady Shot, good to race, but at this point maybe you're searching for answers more in this particular scenario, and I think Life Tap is where I would be thinking of going, because you've seen 2 Living Roots, you've seen 1 Moonfire. Suddenly my sort of fear of being burst down by the Malagos Druid is slipping away. I'd be happy to start tapping.
I think I would go with the tap as well, just because, as you rightly say, you need to be searching for answers. You need to be searching for ways back into this match, because with that Ancient of War on board, and you know that this Malagos Druid is packing more massive beat sticks like the 5/10, you've got to find something that gets you into this game. Maybe could go with the Steady Shot, though, if you want to just try and somehow push to face, but I definitely think the Life Tap is the better option.
We're going to see another Druid of the Claw come down here. And then with the threat of Menagerie Warden on the horizon, Ball Control has got to start searching for answers. Now, if Jambray was keeping attention, Ball Control still has the coin. Now, he has the coin for a reason. We saw him Innovate out Ancient of War. The likely play for him would then be to coin out Ancient of War the next turn, which we could see from Ball Control's hand. But Jambray's got to realize that he's probably looking to get a threat out a turn earlier, just, like a Ragnaros, for instance, or another Ancient of War.
Yeah, if Jambray has been watching closely, he knows where the coin is in Ball Control's hand. He just saw Ball Control hover the coin, then hover Ancient of War. So that somewhat gives away that that's going to be a 7-drop. And realistically, the 7-drop is either Ancient of War or Baron Geddon, but we know that there's no Baron Geddon in this list.
The reason why this is such a tough turn for Ball Control is you have to use your hero power if you want to deal with any of this board from Jambray. And if you don't deal with any of the board, things like Savage World do exist. Things like Power of the World do exist. I mean, obviously, I can see them, so it's easy for me to say that. But Ball Control is a good enough player to know this matchup quite well, and he will be taking those things into consideration.
Absolutely. Power of the Wild is also a thing that would exist next turn. When you saw him put 3 heavy minions on. I think he's just going to go for the Ancient of War. And that makes sense. I mean, obviously, it protects you in a lot of regards. He's not even going to start. He's not even going to start the trade.
Druid of the Saber as well.
Look at this damage that's about to come on through. The Savage Roar on top of everything. This is a huge board. They're 9-9 and 7-7. This is going to be the end of a couple of Ancients of War. But the important thing in these trades is that Jombray's massive minions don't actually die, and we don't see a swipe available for ball control.
Now, we will see Sir Finley probably being the only minion that dies here. He has a choice, either the Sir Finley or the Druid of the Saber. The Druid of the Saber will have more attack once Savage Roar disappears, but that's what he's currently deciding.
I think I prefer this just for the situation where Swipe or Wrath comes into play. You have a tankier minion.
Is keeping his board slightly safer. Now, ball control is in a pretty desolate situation on turn 7. He's going to rely on Raven Idol to find some answers for him. None of those are fantastic answers, but Feral Rage could buy him some time or deal with one of these Druid of the Claws.
Yeah, I think Feral Rage for armor, and then playing Maya Keeper for the minion as well, just to try and contest the board as much as you can.
You don't have the mana.
You don't
to
have the
play
mana.
both.
Yeah.
You don't. You're right, because he's already used 1 mana for for Raven.
Yeah. There's an argument to be made for Feral Rage to do the 4 damage and finish off the Druid of the Claw,
But you take a huge amount of damage to face.
this is the thing. It's like, is that worth it? Is he going to draw Burst
That's
in
a
the next
7-4,
turn?
right? That's a 7-4 Druid of the Claw, or he could take out the 5 something. Well, I can't remember how much. I think it's 5-1 actually.
But the thing is, like, it goes back to that very basic concept in Hearthstone of when you're hitting with a Fiery War Axe, right? It's, yes, I'm hitting into a Bloodsail Raider that's 7-3, but if I don't, it's going to hit me more than once. So
what Ball Control, I think, is thinking with this thought process now is like, he will maybe want to try and contest board here, and if I just shove things down, then, you know, I might actually have a chance to come back with a swipe at some point as well.
Raven, not ideal off the top, but a swipe is pretty darn good, it's fair to say.
It definitely is. It means he can just deal with this board. He can actually just ignore this board if he wants and just continuously go face with swipe in hand as well.
I don't like trading because
He's got 18 damage this turn if
exactly
he
that's
just swipes
just
face.
18 damage face this turn. Like I maybe would be considering swiping a minion and trading Sir Finley into something, but hell no, am I going to be trading a 7-4 and a 5-2 in? Like, I am just shoving 12 damage to face, or 12 damage to face every time.
Yeah, we'll swipe one of the minions just to... I feel like the swipe into face play, while it looks appealing on face value, the odds of you drawing into 4 charge damage or whatever next turn are pretty slim, and you leave up that entire board that is going to be happy to trade into these Druids of the Claw. So.
I don't even... I think
Ragnaros.
His only hope to hit the 7-4.
7-4.
And if he doesn't...
It's game. That's game and championship.
See...
That's
Not
championship.
going to hit it, which means Jambray with 9 damage remaining on the board. Stranglethorn Tiger not even required. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your champion. Jambray is going to be the winner of the ESL UK Premiership.
Quickest finals I have ever witnessed. That was a clean, battering sweep from Jambray. And he said his deck list was favoured. We mentioned his deck list was favoured. His deck list was favoured. He absolutely swept.
I mean, he came in with a game plan. He brought 4 aggressive decks and said, I am just going to take this tournament quickly. I'm not going to give my opponents any chance to kind of think, and I'm just going to constantly jam face. Obviously, he traded when he needed to, but tell you what, it worked.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned how his deck list was favoured on paper. I don't think it was so one-sided that it should have been just a 3-0 steamroll like that. And I've got to say, Jambray has had a phenomenal set of series here today. He only lost 2 games the entire day out of 3 entire series. So just phenomenal play from the guy.
He's one of the guys, I call it the Hoy effect, right? You know, he just basically brings the aggro decks, slams face, does the Shaki where he's like, I'm not going to trade because they'll make the trades for me. And you saw that in a lot of his scenarios. And something me and Sottle mentioned in our previous cast, we said, do you know what? Jambray really knows where his win conditions are, especially in that Paladin deck. He knew exactly how to search for lethal in that Paladin deck, and he found it. And he's found it time and time again. I mean, all credit to the guy. You come in to make a statement, and you've certainly made one.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying in the Paladin series as well. Like, versus that mid-range Shaman, he has played that matchup 1,000 times.
I think there's something to be said as well. Yes, okay, it was a 3-0, but Ball Control probably took one of the worst matchups that he could have out of the 3 decks that he had remaining. If he had perhaps played Shaman or the Hunter instead, then he may have been able to make it look like a 3-2 or something like that, but he just wanted to get that out of the way, that tough matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And none of the lineups or none of these sort of the decks that he played, you ever felt like he had a hand where you're like, core, I'd really like that hand going into ladder. He definitely had a tough set of cards to work with, especially against aggro where board clear and all that kind of jazz really counts. I mean, that Lightning Storm was great from him in the Paladin match, but it was just too late. It was just way too late.
Absolutely. Well, our big man is ready on stage. Let's pass it over to Sottle, who is standing by with our champion, Jambray.
Thank you, Munch. I am indeed standing by with our new ESL Hearthstone Premiership champion. It's the newcomer, Jambray. Jambray, that looked pretty easy.
It looked easy, but it was actually really tough. The first game was pretty simple. That's how that matchup usually goes. The second game was really tough. So you have to play around so many things against the Shaman, and then at some point you have to decide, I can't play around anything anymore. I'm just going to lose if I take it too slowly. And then the last matchup, getting those two big taunts out. I mean, he put two big taunts, I put two big taunts, but Savage Roar is the difference there, I think.
Yeah, the Savage Roar Power of the Wild term was just absolutely huge, especially with the draw of the Druid of the Saber at the same time. But 2016 in general has been a pretty crazy year from you. You burst onto the scene at the HCT prelims, but from that point forward, is this how you saw the year developing for you? Did you think you'd be here when we got to November?
Well, when I started the year, I was pretty much just playing Hearthstone casually. I heard about the HCT, so I thought I'd play a season. I did well, and then I was like, actually, I think I'm good enough to compete against some of the best players, and hopefully I'll prove that even more. Today I think I have, and hopefully in the future I'll win some more things.
Do you have any words for your teammate, Ball Control? I'm sure there's some commiserations. I'm sure you'll share a drink later on, but obviously a good friend of yours. Any words for Ball Control?
He played very well in the series. I didn't spot anything that was misplay or anything like that. Played well throughout the day. He had a bit of unlucky series against some people, but to go straight into losers and come into the final is an achievement, and second place is very good as well. I'm really happy for him, and even more happy for me.
There you go. So I won't keep you waiting too much longer. It's the moment you've been waiting for. Please go ahead, raise your trophy. It is all for you. Ladies and gentlemen, your Hearthstone champion, Jambray! Ladies and gentlemen, 7 long, hard weeks of Hearthstone action has come to a conclusion. It is our newcomer, Jambray, who has defeated our champion, Boar Control, but kept it all in the Torpedo family. I hope you've all had a great time following this tournament throughout. It's a long, illustrious route to get here. I hope you will tune in for more iterations of this. But from me, and for now, I will wish you all a good evening and say good night.
Thank you very much, guys. What a day it has been. And Jambray, I've got to say, congratulations, man. Absolutely deserved win. And I mean, I'm just going to go straight into talking about that series specifically before we finish out the day. What were the key moments in that series for you guys? I'll start with you, Dan.
I think they touched on it on stage, that Savage Roar, the power of Wild Savage Roar, just to clear off both of those taunt minions and create taunts of his own. I mean, it was just, for me, that was the standout moment. I don't think there was anything that could have gone differently for Ball Control. Yes, okay, he could have hero powered and taken out one of those minions, but even if he had, he would have still been staring at a hell of a lot of damage.
I think there were so many key moments for Jambray specifically. That second game for me, you knew he was making some very high-level decisions in terms of percentage win plays. But I actually think the real work was done before this series even started. The lineup that Jambray brought, it was just very good against most of the competition here. And I think a lot of the work that he got done was before he even stepped into that Hearthstone ring.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think his lineup was incredibly aggressive, and I think what you were saying before the breakdown, or before the interview, about how it was just this aggressive style that means your opponent just doesn't have time to think about the plays. They don't have the time for consideration that a lot of Hearthstone players are used to, like, the majority of professional players do pretty much rope every turn. They want to consider every possibility. If you go for that super fast style, it's very difficult. It's like playing against a Nozdormu deck.
It's confidence as well, right? It's confident to bring your own Secret Paladin deck. It's confident to bring Beast Druid, which typically isn't amazing on ladder, but if you've been watching the last 7 weeks of ESL UK Premiership, how many times have we seen Beast Druid get those important wins? He has really analysed his opponents, he's analysed the kind of little meta that has developed between these guys, and he brought just 4 incredible decks, and I think you're right. I think the deck selection really helped him win this tournament.
Yeah, and he played them incredibly well. Like, I am beyond impressed with his knowledge of his own. I mean, he coined the list, right? But I'm so impressed with the knowledge that he has in terms of searching for particular ways to find lethal with that Secret Paladin. This is the second game of this series. If you have just tuned in and missed it, you need to go back and watch that, because that was some high-level play from Jambray. Really, really impressive stuff. But like I said, a lot of work was done before we even got into the ring. I'm thoroughly impressed with Jambray. He is our deserved winner.
I just want to echo that as well, because I feel like I gave Jambray a little bit of a hard time at the start of the group stages when he lost like his first 2, if not 3 games, and I was like, who is this Jambray guy? Is he all he's cracked up to be? And I kind of gave him a little bit of a hard time. Completely take it back. Like, the guy has been phenomenal here today and absolutely proved himself here in the Premiership. Any parting words from you guys before we close out the stream for the day?
Lejam owes me a drink. I did say that I would have bought him. He said, if I don't make it to finals, I buy him a drink. And then he said, if I make it to finals, he buys me one. But now he's won. He's definitely buying me a drink.
I also
think that's a round, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there you go. I'll say, honestly, guys, thank you so much for being part of this journey for all of us. It's been fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed casting this season of the Hearthstone ESL Premiership. It has been wonderful every step of the way, especially with these 2 boys here. And also our 2 special guests of Lorinda and Sotter. They've been fantastic addition to the lineup. And it's just so good to see high-level UK Hearthstone players have a chance to show their talent. I've been thoroughly impressed with all of it. The ESL production, the sort of the play that everyone has brought to this tournament. Everybody here, the top 4 players, are deserved competitors, and I'm looking forward to seeing them next time.
Absolutely. And speaking of next time, this has been the final stream of this season of the ESL UK Premiership. Make sure to follow us on social media. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and all of the VODs will be uploaded to YouTube as well. It's at ESL UK, and that's where you can get your information about the beginning of the next season. So we will see you on social media. But thank you all so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this entire tournament, and we will see you guys next season.